Hey guy, I talked a little bit about season 5 of Stranger Things in my last video, right before the final episode came out. At that point, I was so underwhelmed by the season as a whole that I didn't expect the finale to sway my opinion about it that much in either direction. But everything that has transpired since then is so fascinating to me that I simply have to talk about it. A finale so tepid, so unsatisfying that it caused millions of fans to craft conspiracy theories about a secret 9th episode, followed by the show's creators going on a generationally bad press run.
I need some fucking money.
And a behind-the-scenes documentary that more than anything else only made the two of them look dumb.
I mean, the thing that's cool is the giant monster.
Let's start with the finale itself, which was released the night of New Year's Eve. That's fine, it's not like I had plans or anything. I don't know why I said it like that. It was fine and I didn't have plans. Here's everything that pissed me off in the finale. 1, the long ass cut to black when Steve fell. Oh no! Oh, thank God. They caught him. This was the most SpongeBob roller coaster ass moment of the entire show. I did not think for 1 second that Steve was gonna die here because nobody with significant screen time ever dies in this show. They didn't even kill off one of the Wheeler parents who got brutally attacked by monsters.
Everyone will die.
It's gonna be okay.
Or Murray, who has no personality and speaks only in quips.
You get too loud in the sex, you shush you?
If he died in some embarrassing and hilarious way, everyone would have given you a standing ovation. But they didn't even have the balls to do that. So I'm supposed to think that we're gonna come back from this blackout with fan favorite Steve Harrington just dead on the ground? No. This is the cinematic equivalent of playing peekaboo. You're treating me like a baby.
The idea of him saving Steve, this is gonna really mess with people.
Unfortunately, one person that does die is Kali. Rest in peace. Not that this contradicts my point at all, because I'm pretty sure she was on screen for a total of like 10 minutes the entire series. She was in one episode 8 years ago, and they brought her back just to kill her. This was played like it's supposed to be this really emotional moment, but I'm sorry, I don't care about this character. She's not part of the show. It actually makes me kind of mad because the Duffers clearly are trying to have their cake and eat it too. They want us to be sad when they kill someone, but they don't want to kill anyone who would actually make us sad. And even if they do, they'll follow it up with, or maybe we didn't. Guys, please don't be mad at us. The one cool moment that actually shocked me in this finale was when Vecna tricks Hopper into shooting Elle, and for a few seconds, we think something terrible just happened. It's so jarring and unexpected and serves as this temporary reminder of how powerful the villain is supposed to be. But nothing really comes out of this. I mean, sure, it throws a little bit of a wrench in their plan, but they figure everything out anyway.
This is gonna really mess with people.
Really, this just feels like a big missed opportunity. Why wasn't Vecna doing shit like this the whole season? This guy can give people vivid hallucinations. He could have spent the past few months slowly eroding everybody's trust, making them question what's real, even to the point that they start turning on each other. Think of how much more tension that could have added, how much more formidable it would have made your main villain. Instead, he spent the whole season running a daycare. We spent more time watching him intimidate a bunch of random kids that we don't know than we did watching the relationships of the core characters actually get developed in a meaningful way. Anyway, eventually the gang moves from one blue screen to another, only this one looks worse. And we get to see them walk and talk, and they walk and they talk. And now, it's finally time for the ultimate battle. 10 years of Stranger Things has led to this moment. A climactic showdown between our scrappy group of teenagers and Winona Ryder versus one of the most dangerous and evil freaks the world has ever known, taking the form of the Mind Flayer, a 100-foot-tall beast with sprawling tentacle arms. They killed him. They just jumped inside and chopped him up. The final battle was so quick and easy and so early into the runtime of the episode that I thought surely the other shoe is about to drop. It's classic misdirection. You think you beat the boss, only to realize there's actually a second phase and you already set down your controller. But no, that was it. No demogorgons to deal with, no demodogs, demobats, not even like a democockroach. Nothing? A group of 16-year-olds with a spear and a flare gun took down Satan himself without even getting a scratch. Dustin has a bigger scar from getting punched by another teenager than any of these people do from fighting this. You know this saying about how if you want to boil a frog, you have to like slowly turn the temperature of the water up to keep him from jumping out? Kind of a weird way to describe that specific phenomenon, but almost exactly how I felt watching Stranger Things in this moment. I don't think it truly set in how far we strayed from where we started until the water was already 200 degrees and my little frog ass was getting boiled. But if you showed me this clip in 2016, right after I finished watching the first season, I would be like, what the fuck? I just finished watching this small town sci-fi mystery noir, and this looks like a scene from Avengers Endgame. And you'd be like, wait, how do you know what Avengers Endgame looks like? That's not coming out for another 3 years. And I'd be like, I don't know. The trajectory this show went on is baffling. The dialogue got dumbed down to appeal to a younger audience, even though, in theory, the audience should have just gotten older, because that's how time works. And for a series that was filled with so many cool elements of sci-fi and horror to all culminate in this ugly green screen action sequence where one character does a big jump is such a letdown. Because of how lackluster this all was, and because we were still like halfway through the episode, I thought, surely there's going to be something more. My anticipation slowly grew into disappointment as I realized the hour of runtime remaining was just a gratuitously long epilogue, filled to the brim with what this season did best. Characters in a circle talking about the things they're going to do.
Thank you.
After all this time, years of investment into the show, and the final word of legible dialogue is fart. No, this can't be right. I don't believe it.
What about all the clues?
The set pieces, they were the wrong color. The song at the end has only been used when something on the show isn't real. Steve wouldn't coach baseball, he was on the basketball team. And what about the clocks? And all of those weird Will lines where he would insist on being cold and he would get facts about his memories mixed up. He must be under Vecna's control. Maybe we're under Vecna's control.
And there's a secret 9th episode dropping tonight. If you type secret ending into Netflix, it takes you right to Stranger Things. The Morse code literally translates to, "You did not stop me."
The Duffer Brothers wear two very particular t-shirts.
Right after Steve falls, the screen goes black for 7 seconds.
Why did Netflix release a trailer?
Their graduation colors are orange.
And why are they selling a
Did
flashlight?
we just predict the biggest plot twist in television history?
That's right. This finale was fake. They made the whole season bad on purpose to get us to let our guard down. But the real 9th episode is coming out on January 7th. January 18th. Sorry, what I meant was during the Super Bowl halftime show.
His face goes dark at 8. Super Bowl halftime starts at 8 o'clock. We're gonna see the real ending.
So this is on Backlit, which is like a casting website. The ability to wear a costume that fully covers the body. My brain went right to Demogorgons.
You know, at first I watched that and I was like, does she think the only full body costume on Earth is Demogorgons? That there's not a single other character they could possibly be dressing up as? But then I went back and watched the show and I noticed something. Hidden in the background of just one frame for a mere moment is a Rocket Money logo. And that can only mean one thing. This video is sponsored by Rocket Money. As more and more one-time payments turn into never-ending subscription services, it's never been easier to lose track of where all your money is going. Today's sponsor, Rocket Money, is a super useful tool to help prevent that from happening. I've been using Rocket Money for like 3 years now, and in that time, they've helped me keep an eye on my budget, realize what subscription services I forgot I was even paying for, and they've even helped me cancel some of them. Instead of being hounded with follow-up questions to make you feel guilty about canceling something, just click a few buttons and let them do all the hard work for you. The great thing about this app is you can see your upcoming recurring charges before they happen. A lot of times you won't remember that you're still signed up for a subscription until you get the credit card notification that you've just been charged. You're like, shoot, yeah, I was supposed to cancel that. Oh well, I'll just do it next month. Oh my god, I did it again. But with Rocket Money, you can avoid that altogether by seeing when and exactly how much you're about to be charged for. And on top of that, they might even be able to lower some of your monthly bills. I pay less for internet now because I clicked a few buttons on this app and they were like, yeah, no problem, we'll take care of that for you, big guy. So if one of your New Year's resolutions was to get a better handle on your finances, downloading Rocket Money is a great place to start. You can go to rocketmoney.com/DrewGooden to get started for free. You can also scan the QR code on the screen or click the link down in the description and unlock even more features when you sign up for premium. Thank you to Rocket Money for sponsoring this video. Honestly, I have to hand it to some of these TikTok editors. These videos are so well put together. For about a day and a half, I was fully on board. I don't want it to seem like I'm making fun of these people because really they were just disappointed in a thing that they love and they were still in the early stages of denial about it. If you go back throughout the show, there's so many lines and visuals that seemed to be foreshadowing something. That's why people had such high expectations, not because they're delusional, but because they thought that all the time they spent paying close attention and analyzing every little detail would be rewarded at the end. But once the time passed and it became clear that episode 8 was in fact the true finale, all of these secret hints that everyone hyper-focused on turned back into what they always were. Bad writing and production errors. And all of that charged up excitement and anticipation turned into rage. Fuck the Duffer Brothers. These guys aren't playing 4D chess. They probably don't even know how to play checkers. It was so interesting to watch all of this unfold because at its core, Conformity Gate was not that different than a lot of other conspiracy theories, almost all of which are simply born out of dissatisfaction with a given answer. I'm probably paraphrasing that ContraPoints video here, but as human beings, we don't like randomness. We would rather ascribe intentionality to something than accept that the world we live in is just full of chaos. It's scary to think that a random person could assassinate a president, so there has to be more to the story. The show I've loved for half my life can't have a bad ending. There has to be more to the story. But sometimes there isn't. Will saying he misses drinking milkshakes at Melvald's even though they don't sell milkshakes is not some 200 IQ misdirect, it was just a writing mistake. The color of this dial changing from gray to red was not an Easter egg for the audience to pick up on, it was just a continuity error. Maybe they shot it one way and then decided that red would pop better on camera and assumed nobody would care enough to make a viral TikTok about it. Regardless, the obsessive nature of Conformity Gate and the collective anger that ensued when these admittedly cool fan theories turned out to be fake almost definitely would not have happened if the finale was just good. If this final episode wasn't so underwhelming, it wouldn't have given millions of fans the motivation to go digging for clues. So while I'm sure the Duffer Brothers never expected all of this to happen, it is still kind of their fault. And now they'd have to deal with the consequences. So then comes time for the press tour, where Matt and Ross would go from podcast to interview to television appearance, addressing everyone's burning questions with answers like, "We don't know. We never thought about it like that." And if that did happen, it happened off screen. Every day for about 3 weeks, I would wake up and see some new quote from the Duffer Brothers that had absolutely no substance. What is even the point of doing all these interviews if you're not going to say anything?
Oh, what happened to Robin and Vicky?
I don't, certain things are open to interpretation. I don't know.
I don't know.
I truly don't know.
I don't know what happened to them.
Ross and I know.
I don't know.
No, for sure. I don't know. We just don't know.
And to be fair, not every question demands an answer. You should certainly be allowed to let your art speak for itself and leave some ambiguity in the things that you create. But some of these questions do raise some pretty good points. Like, I thought it was weird that after blowing up the portal to the Upside Down, the military seemed to just go away. Like, sure, they're not chasing 11 anymore, but the rest of the kids did, kill a bunch of them. So I think this is a perfectly fair question for an interviewer to ask. Here's Ross's answer. My guess is they just sort of left. Your guess? Brother, you wrote the show. Hey, what happened to Murray? I don't know. And why did Vecna need exactly 12 kids? No reason. And how come Will didn't feel anything while the Mind Flayer was getting killed? He just wanted to focus on the other guys. Even when they did give answers, there certainly doesn't seem to be a lot of confidence in them.
A lot of people want to know about who unlocked the door in season 1, episode 1, let the Demogorgon in, definitively. Say now?
Yeah, I mean that's Vecna using his psionic abilities through the demo.
Oh, okay, yeah. I guess that makes sense. Although Vecna didn't exist yet at the time. Sure, he canonically was alive during that scene, but when they were writing it, they hadn't come up with him yet. So what was the justification at the time? It kind of feels like you're just retconning a mistake you made and trying to act like it was the plan all along. Which, to be honest, is not that big of a deal. I'm not gonna grill them on every little inconsistency from season 1 to season 5, because at the time they never expected the show to go on as long as it did. The only reason I'm annoyed about this is because they said it would be answered. Months ago, unprompted, they were like, in season 5, you're finally gonna know who opened that door. I was willing to move on from this. You're the one who brought it up. Is this what you meant, though? That question would finally be answered on a podcast? I guess I thought you meant you were gonna do it in the show.
Cut me some slack.
I think generally speaking, the reason why people are so bothered by these errors, even the minor ones, is that the Duffers have spent years telling everybody to pay attention to everything. There are no such thing as coincidences. These details that seem random might not be random at all. They're actually small pieces woven into this intricate fabric we're waiting to unveil. And then the show ended with the most cookie-cutter ending of all time. So what the hell were you talking about? Another disappointment with the overly simplistic final fight sequence is that all of these creatures that have terrorized these people the entire show, that we know live in this abyss, just completely disappeared when it came time to fight Henry. It feels like such a huge missed opportunity. So why weren't any of them there? Well, it's because Vecna wasn't ready. How was he supposed to know they were coming? It's not like he's some kind of mind reader. Oh wait, I guess he is. I'm sorry, the omnipotent, telepathic devil creature who can see into people's brains from anywhere in the world didn't know what they were up to. They spent half the season talking about their plans. You didn't want to pop into one of those meetings and take some notes? I'm pretty sure the only time he actually used this power was to figure out where Max was. She was in the hospital, Henry. He knows where she is now. I don't think you needed telepathy to find the girl in a coma. Where the hell else would she be? I remember liking a lot of what they did with Vecna in season 4, but by the end, this became such a stupid character. He's all powerful and all knowing, and yet he got tricked by a bunch of kids. He's bulletproof and indestructible until he merges with the giant monster. Then you just have to jump through his neck hole and hit him with an axe. I liked this show a lot better when the antagonist was more mysterious, when the threat was a demonic alternate dimension and not just the Grinch, but evil.
Yes. This does not bite me in the ass.
But as bad as all those interviews were, nothing made the Duffers seem more incompetent than the documentary that Netflix released about season 5.
Today's a very interesting day. We are shooting episode 8, which isn't completely written yet, so we don't even fully know what's going on.
We went into production without having a finished script for the finale.
Oh. Okay, well that makes sense. The reason everything seemed unplanned and rushed was because it was. It's so funny that they're like, man, a lot riding on this finale. We cannot fuck this up.
You see these shows that people love and the ending falters and they just discard the rest of the show. You can't leave anything dangling. You have to wrap everything up.
And then they wasted all the time they had to write the script and had to rush it out after they started filming.
I never read a script. And we're just shooting it.
I mean, they know how it's gonna end. They just have to, write it down.
It's not like we don't know where the ending is. It's like it's all plotted out. I just have to write it.
There are multiple crew members stressing out about the timeline that's been thrust upon them because Matt and Ross have procrastinated.
You have a script? No. We don't.
They have all these meetings to try to get some idea of what they need to do, but since none of it is set in stone yet, they might end up wasting a bunch of time.
Inevitably, it's going to change as we keep writing it.
All right.
I mean, just
have to
the
know
whole
exactly
new
what's
concept of
happening.
like what the floor is like. We're gonna get a script and it's gonna be like, oh, there's the other like 70% of business that we couldn't account for.
I feel like there's moments where you can even see the actors starting to lose faith in the show. Like Natalia asking if there's any scientific logic behind something.
It's all very realistic.
Or this clip of Maya giving the blankest stare while watching the footage they just shot. It's really funny to juxtapose some of the responses they've given in interviews with footage from this documentary. Like the answer about there being no Demogorgons in the final fight because Vecna, didn't think to ask for their help is only an attempt to justify the fact that they just didn't want to write about them anymore.
Yeah, I guess I maybe wonder about demo fatigue at the...
Yeah, I mean, that's fair.
That's such a funny thing to say because no, I'm pretty sure anyone who's stuck around this far into the show is not tired of seeing the creatures that have been in it since the beginning. That would be like spending the entire Star Wars trilogy building up to a fight between Luke and Darth Vader, and then right when you get to the end, you're like, wait, don't you think people are gonna be kind of bored of lightsabers at this point? And then Darth Vader turns into a spider. I love their response when one of the writers tries to point this out.
There have to be some monsters in the abyss.
I agree.
There has to be Demogorgon, bat, dog, something. It's crazy if there's nothing there, I think.
Wrong. Okay, well, guess that's the end of that conversation.
I mean, the thing that's cool is the giant monster.
Of course, as with most behind-the-scenes documentaries, it is really cool to see how a show this big gets made. The amount of time and physical labor, the creativity from so many different departments, the extremely delicate balance required to maintain all of these moving parts, and in this instance, how these two doofuses fucked all that up.
And then I don't know what the fuck happens to them.
I found this quote from them in an LA Times article that I thought was pretty funny. They were talking about how they went into production of the finale without finishing the script, and obviously they're describing it like it's a good thing because they have to defend their process. But they say at the end, we're not sure if this is our fault, but Netflix won't let anyone do this anymore. They don't want to start filming before the script is done. Surely that has nothing to do with us, though. Now, look, generally speaking, I'm gonna take the side of a creative team over the studio that they work for. I think a lot of what these executives push can be antithetical to the process of making art. In almost every other situation, I would put more of the blame on the studio. But they're talking about how Netflix is breathing down their necks.
We were getting hammered constantly by production and by Netflix for episode 8.
And it's like, yeah, you had 2 years to write it, and you didn't.
It was the most difficult writing circumstances we've ever found ourselves in.
The only reason there's this much of a time pressure is because they wasted 80% of the time they were given. This isn't like a workplace comedy where you could leave a couple scenes open-ended because you're gonna leave room for your actors to improvise. This is the grand finale of a high-budget, narrative-driven sci-fi show. No matter what you write, there is so much production work that goes into it. There are giant sets to build, visual effects to bring to life, the quality of which will almost directly correlate with how much time the artists are given to create them. There are hundreds of people who work on this show, and none of them can do their job until you finish yours. And you've been dicking around for 2 years. I've seen a lot of people be like, why would the Duffers even put out this documentary when it makes them look so dumb? And an important thing to note here is that they're only credited in this for their appearance. They're not listed as editors or producers. I don't think they had any control over what was shown here. Obviously, the show itself is their creative vision, but it certainly seems like this documentary was done entirely by a separate crew who came in just to film some of the process. And who knows what their motive is behind this? Going forward, the Duffers are no longer a part of Netflix. They signed an exclusive deal with Paramount that's about to kick in, so Netflix really has no reason to be loyal to them. In fact, I'm sure they loved the idea of sabotaging them a little bit before they left to go work for one of their competitors. Watching this documentary through that lens, it really seems like they did everything they could to blame the issues of season 5 solely on Matt and Ross. Because really, there are so many things in here that make the Duffers look awful. One of the hardest to watch is this conversation where one of them is talking about how he hasn't had any time to work on the script because he has kids now. And he asked one of the other crew members if he has kids, and he's like, yeah.
I was working when they were young, and,
That's never stopped me from doing my job, though. Dude, I don't think anybody should be forced to work 7 days a week. And that's awesome that you wanted to spend some extra time with your kids, but I can't stress this enough. You had 2 full years. I'm pretty sure there was room in there for some work-life balance. You know, I think the reason I'm so drawn to this, the common thread between the Duffer Brothers and some of the other people I've talked about on my channel in the past, is I think I'm just fascinated seeing someone get too successful for their own good and then end up way out of their depth because of it. Like, just because Jake Paul was good at making YouTube videos for 9-year-olds doesn't mean he should write a book. Just because Ninja was really good at Fortnite for a couple years doesn't mean he should teach a master class about it.
My hair was blue.
And just because the Duffers are pretty good directors, which I do think that they are, doesn't mean they're great writers. They talked pretty openly about how that was never what they wanted to do.
Ross and I had no interest in writing at all.
That to them, writing was more of a means to an end, that they would only be given the opportunity to direct if they wrote their own project. Clearly, they're good enough writers. They started this show with a really good idea, but I think it's clear that the difference between a good writer and a great writer is being able to finish what you started. It's a lot easier to throw out a bunch of ideas early on in a show than it is to tie them all together at the end. In early seasons, you can do almost anything. You can introduce whatever you want. It almost doesn't even need to make sense yet, because you'll get the benefit of the doubt that it'll all get explained later. You can just keep kicking that can down the road, and that's all great. Until you get to the end and you're surrounded by all the cans you've kicked and you're like, what the fuck am I supposed to do with these? It's too late to come up with answers for all of them, so you just have to focus on the ones you think matter the most and hope to God nobody notices all the ones that you didn't. And unfortunately for Matt and Ross, this show was way too big for that to happen. A lot of these fans paid more attention to it than they did. They noticed so many mistakes that they convinced themselves that they were following the intentional breadcrumbs of a massive conspiracy theory. But watching this documentary only makes the idea that the Duffers are some super genius writing duo with this giant trick up their sleeve honestly kind of hilarious.
We wanted to get it right. It was the most important script of the season.
The thing that's cool is the giant monster.
That these guys were about to subvert the entire medium of television by releasing a secret alternate finale in a way that nobody else ever has? No. It was always going to be the safest ending imaginable. A finale meticulously engineered to ruffle as few feathers as possible. And ironically, by being so unambitious, they actually did make a lot of people upset. I think what the finale and the interviews and the documentary all made clear is that by the end, the Duffers just didn't really care that much about this show anymore. I think more than anything else, they were just ready for it to be over.
In 10 years, when we're talking, are we talking about more stories with these characters? If you're betting men, what do you say?
I mean, I hope not. We don't want to. I mean, we really don't.
I honestly understand the procrastination because I'm sure it was so overwhelming to sit down and try to write their way out of the corner that they had painted themselves into. When you realize, oh wait, people are gonna remember all the things I've been saying for the past 10 years? I don't even remember all that shit. I think they were so stressed that they were like, you know what? Let's just wrap this thing up, do a big fight, everyone will live happily ever after, and then we don't have to think about this show ever again. But unfortunately, in their rush to move on, they've kind of retroactively damaged the rest of the show. Turns out if you abandon a bunch of plot lines and butcher most of your characters, it leaves a pretty bitter taste in people's mouths. To this day, I've still never watched Game of Thrones because I know how much people hate the ending. No matter how good the rest of the show is supposed to be, it's hard for me to want to watch it when I know I'll just be bracing myself for what's waiting for me at the end. The Duffers said their worst fear was doing that to this show, so it's probably eating away at them to see how people are talking about it, especially since everybody is still judging them on the fake ending. How are you gonna say Conformity Gate isn't real when the evidence is literally right there? Episode 9, Super Bowl halftime show, stands full of Demogorgons, Bad Bunny turns into Vecna, Sam Darnold turns into Finn Wolfhard, and Stranger Things fans everywhere will finally get the ending we deserve. Also, 34-17 Seahawks. Thanks for watching.